Have you noticed Libby at communion? Hey, she stays near the blood. She's not prepared to let the blood out of her sight. And you know, that's not a bad thing to do. Because without the blood, we have nothing. And, you know, bless her. Because it says a little child shall lead them. And we can learn a lot from the children. But we do need to keep near the blood, because that's what purchased our freedom. That's what forgives our sins. And I was just thinking earlier on as we were singing, it was the first song, the Rend Collective one, and it was talking about building your kingdom here. And there's a verse in the Psalms, and it says, if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? And, you know, it is the week that we celebrate Passover. It's when we celebrate what Jesus came to do. And the foundations were destroyed. So what did the righteous God do? He sent his Son to be a sacrifice for us, to restore, to repair the foundations. And I'm speaking about Romania this morning. And, you know, in our own nation, the same question is asked. If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? The foundations in Romania are broken. The foundations in this nation are broken. And God says, what can the righteous do? He doesn't say it to the governments, the authorities. He says it to the body of Christ. He says it to his people. What can the righteous do? And it's the call that God sends out that his people answer to, that repair and build the foundations, not just of nations, but of towns and of people. It's on every level. And, you know, in our own lives, our foundations are destroyed. And what repairs them? It's the cross. That's where we get our foundations repaired, restored, and forgiven and made whole. I thought, I've just forgotten what I meant to do. I've got to go get a little doodad. So Romania. It's just a month ago that we came back from it. And so Heather asked me to sort of talk about it a bit. And for those of you that don't know, that's a map of Romania. And X marks the spot where we were. And Simona, when she described Romania to me, she said it's shaped like a fish and we're down at the tail. So that's where we were, just under that big black cross. And it's not there when you go to Medgidia, the cross. But it is there. So these are just some facts about Romania, about Medgidia, the town where we went. If I point it at it's the town where we went, as you all know by now, is called Medgidia, and it's one of the least evangelized and poorest areas of Romania. It's had in its past sort of 4 centuries of Turkish occupation. And in the communist area, it was an area where there was a lot of social and economic crisis. It's a real just melting pot of people that are there. And the Muslims have actually made Medgidia the headquarters for reaching Romania for Islam. And we can identify with it in this area because with Bradford, you know, that's a city that Islam has targeted for the UK. And around the area, there are 100 villages with no Bible-believing church or born-again believers. And it's into that place that we've been going. So what does Medgidia actually look like? It's because, you know, I've just given you a big black cross. That's just one of the streets. This is the main road sort of going across. This was after Heather and Ruth and Rachel went. I know that because there's blue sky. And when they were there, it was grey sky. That's not a reflection on them. It's just the way the weather went. So it's just that's the main street, and the community centre is sort of just over here. So it's not grand by any means. And into that, God calls, if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? And the lady on the right is Cindy Getchman. And God called her about 5 years ago to go out to Romania and to feed the children. So she answered the call and went out there, and it's we worked alongside Cindy and the church. She's attached to a Pentecostal church out there, and there's a pastor out there called Vasily, and he's a real visionary. And the Pentecostal church has a vision by 2020 to plant 40 churches in the villages where there are no Pentecostal churches, in villages where there are no believers. And that's their vision, and they've already started on that. And so that's quite a grand vision that they have, to see the gospel go forth, because they know that the only hope is in the gospel. The only hope is in the kingdom. And so she's working alongside them, and those are her two of her team members. Simona is sort of the main one, and Adi works alongside as well with a lot of the children as well. So the church had a community centre, and that's what it looks like now. That's not what it looked like in the early days, but that's where it's like the hub. That's where a lot of the day-to-day business takes place. And again, this was after the other guys had come back to the UK, because it's blue skies. And so in there are working with the children. She's built up relationships, and there are lots of programs that take place in there. And those of you that were here last week, when the guys from Delaware were here, and James was the main guy, he was quoting from Isaiah 58, and as he was speaking, and as particularly Will was speaking, I could identify with what they were saying about Delaware, about anywhere with what is taking place in Medgidia. And this is what he spoke from Isaiah. He said, "Is this not the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that you break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and that you bring to your house the poor who are cast out? When you see the naked, that you cover him, and not hide yourself from your own flesh." And they talked about that. They talked about the heaviness there. Will, I think the young guy who's come from that district, he talked about just the lack of identity, of people not knowing who they are. James spoke about just years and years and generations of pain that they're having to break through. That's not that dissimilar to Medgidia. When you come into Romania, Heather picked it up. I did more last year, I must admit, but you come into a heaviness. There is a heaviness over the nation. There is a brokenness over there. And you see that in the people. And you see a lack of hope in people. You see a lack of identity. And all of us were like that before we came to know Christ. You only know who you are when you know who you are in Christ, because it's He that gives us our identity. When we know Jesus, He shows us who we are. And so you see that in there. That's the sort of atmosphere that they're working in. And a lack of hope, a lack of identity. Excuse me a minute, I'm going to have to take that out of the way. So, that's it. So what can they do to restore hope? Well, it's to preach the gospel. It's to take the kingdom. It's to see the kingdom take root and produce its fruit. And this is what God challenged Cindy, and this is what takes place now in the community centre. She's spent years building up links with the people in the community, and so they run literacy programs. Pardon? I can't hear you. Which one? Right. So this is inside the community program, and that's some of the children that have come. They look really clean and lovely there, but that's not how they arrive at the doorstep. They arrive quite black, and then they have showers in the community centre, and then they're reclothed, and they're fed. They do feeding programs, and the children, when they came in, they weren't able to read or write. They weren't able to hold pencils. And so they've been teaching them just the very foundations that they can use as tools to get them back into society, because they're just living on the edge. That's another. Rachel was a lady that went with us, and she has such a heart for the children. We never really saw her because she spent all the time working with the children. And as you see, you know, they're great kids. And it's like, you know, what do you see when you go out to a place like this? When God sent Cindy out there, she saw a harvest field. You know, she saw jewels that were just waiting to be discovered. She saw diamonds just waiting to be mined. You might go out there and just see rubbish. What happens when you walk around Halifax? What do you see? You know, with the young people, the ones that have a heart for young people, you see a broken and hurting generation. You see people that need to know who they are. You see people that need to know the love of God. You see a harvest field. Others just see ones that the rest of society doesn't want. And you see it because that's what God puts inside of you to see, because you see through his eyes, with his heart, with his passion, and you see what he wants. You know, when we look out, God's saying, what do you see? You know, what do you see? And she saw treasures, and these are the treasures that have been unearthed, that have been discovered. This is, you know, before the program was set up, some of the children probably wouldn't have even known when they had birthdays. But one thing they do, they celebrate birthdays. And that's something, you know, even something that small, that's them celebrating one of the birthdays. And it's quite frequent because there are a lot of children with lots of birthdays. That's inside the community centre. It's a place of life. It's a place of joy. It's a place of light. And you wonder where the children get clothes from. It's there. And that's them just sorting through that lot. And I know just after that they'd sorted all those bags out. They just had a huge load delivered from Teen Challenge Bucharest. So it just never stops. But that's where clothes and all the socks that you sent and all the underpants, that's where they will have gone in. And they were very grateful for them. This is what God says about it, though. And this is in Matthew. And he says, again, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure in a field, which a man found and hid. And for joy over it, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. And again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls, who, when he had found one pearl of great price, went and sold all he had and bought it. You know, the world looks at sort of Medgidia and just sees rubbish. God sees a treasure field. And God sees, that's what the kingdom of heaven is like. And God, it's his. And Cindy's been sent over there to mine hidden treasures. You know, the pastors over there with the vision, they've been sent to mine the treasures in the villages, the treasures of souls that are there. And what does hidden treasure look like? This is what it looks like. This is at the ladies' conference. And those children, 1-2 years ago, were just filthy, living in absolute squalor. And there they are. They had had a shower that morning, by the way, and all clean clothes. But that was them singing in public at the ladies' conference. That's what treasures look like. You know, love has a name. Love has a face. Hidden treasures have names. They have faces. And it's easy to sort of look from a distance and not be able to relate. You know, I've had the blessing of going there. So has Heather, so has Ruth and Angela. And you see the faces. The faces mean something to you. And you can see life in them. This is what treasures look like. You know, they're just treasures in darkness. And that's what God's doing. He's bringing out of darkness the hidden treasures. And, the parable in Matthew about the pearl of great price, he's talking about something that is of value. And what value means, it's the amount of money that something is worth. It's the price or cost of something useful or important. What was the cost of these? What was the cost of you and me? It's the cross. That's why Christ went to the cross, because of the value he places on us, because of the value he places on one soul. That's what drove him to the cross. For the joy that was set before him, that's you and me, that's them. For the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame. We were the prize that he went to the cross for. That's what this week is all about. And those are the treasures that are over there that God is calling forth out of darkness into his marvelous light for his plan and purpose. They have a worth. They have a value. You have a worth. You have a value. And, that's what Jesus did. He came to show us how much we were worth. He came to show us our value. And the ultimate price of a value is somebody laying down your life. And that's what Jesus did for us. There's nothing greater than that. And, I've realized that what God is doing in Medgidia, what he's doing over there, is also greater than the boundaries of that town. They're going for that whole area. They're taking back that area, that region for the kingdom. They're taking back that area for the gospel, for the glory of God. And the children as such, they're learning skills, but they're getting an identity. They're beginning to learn who they are. And, the church is planting churches in a lot of the villages. And what we did when we were out there, we went along for the ladies' conference, and we went round about 10 or 11 villages while we were there, all very different. And these are just some of what they look like as well. That's in one conference, But again, these ladies are hidden treasures, and they're the ones that God is speaking to and setting free. That's another one. They all look very different. Some are happier than others, aren't they? And some of them are very creative. But that's what we were doing when we were out there. That's the UK team had joined us then. That's a Baptist church, but that's just at the end of it. Another church that God is using with godly men and women. That was a really fun day. They were really hard, those two villages, weren't they? They were. Yeah, that village. Yeah. So that was. I got to share at that one. Heather got to share at the next one. And when you spoke, it was just bouncing straight back at you. It was hard ground, wasn't it, that one? But yeah, that village, we spoke to one guy who's a missionary there, a Romanian guy, a lovely man, Radu. And he said it's called the graveyard for missionaries. So we prayed for him. So it's tough. It's not without its problems. In this church, the pastor had just left 2 weeks before and caused great problems. I'm not going into all the details. But while we were in the meeting, he was stood sort of watching what was going on the road. So it was a real problematic area. But, the gospel goes forth. And even though ground is hard, you keep chipping away, and you just keep believing, because the gospel is the power of God unto salvation, that, fruit will come. But it was fun, wasn't it? That one. So this is one other village. It's called Peshtera, as you can see from that. And why do you go? You go because God calls you to go. And this is the second time I've been back. And funnily enough, Heather went once, and while she was there, she's sorting out going back again, which I find quite amusing, really, that I don't know what it is about this place, but God has linked us with what is taking place there. So I went last year, And why did I go back? Well, because God told me. And this is one of the villages. And what do you think that when we go, we make a difference? Or is it just making us feel better? Well, I know that something big happened in this village. And I just put up a picture from last year. This was in this village, and in 2013, and we're stood on a muddy field, and they were planning, to build a church. And I'd taken a word with me last year, and it was for the sound of Romania to be released. We sang a song as well this morning, at the sound of your name. Enemies flee at the sound of your name. And I knew we had to release a sound, and the time was right to do it here. So we got them together. The pastor is playing his guitar, and there were some of the others. And I had my shofar with me, and I got them to blow it. And so we blew it over the ground as a declaration of what was to come. So that was in March 2013. And this is March 2014. That's that same field. That is built, that was dedicated in December. God is moving. That was a change. That blessed me so much to see that. And what is taking place inside that church is that, one of the great things in that church, there were so many young people, and they'd had a team from Kensington Temple just 2 or 3 weeks before we went, a team of Africans from there, and they'd prayed for them all to receive the Holy Spirit. And they were beautiful, the young people there. I had the privilege of going back on the Sunday evening to preach. Heather went to a different village. And they were just so open, these young people, just pure, with hearts open for God. And that's what he's doing. He's raising it up. It does make a difference. God is calling people from all over the earth to this area. When we were there, we shared the building with a team from Holland that were doing a building project. When I stayed for the few extra days, there were a team from Teen Challenge Bucharest. They come in the summer from America, Germany, Norway, the UK, all over. God is just drawing people to this area. God is up to something, because that it's just way out of your control. One other thing that we did while we were out there, which I know really touched and blessed Cindy, she's been reaching and building bridges with the children, but her heart is also to see salvation in the families. And her heart was really to go out and reach the mothers. So one day, one morning we went round to where they live. And as you see, it's Heather and Ruth were there because it's raining. So it's not linked to them. So we went round to visit their houses. And that you've always got a crowd of children around you. And we went to see them, to invite the mothers for a meeting that afternoon. That was the first time Cindy had actually done that. That's been on her heart for years and years. And we went in the houses and saw the different conditions. They don't live in nice conditions. And one was just sort of heart-wrenching. But, this is one of them. This is proof that we did take the hats. And... that was one of Roseberry's, though. That one fits. Yeah, we took them all. So, and that little child was beautiful. He loved the hat. He? I can't remember. But so that was inside. And Cindy invited these mothers to a meeting in the afternoon. We went back and we started to get ready for them. And, Sudhir, the Indian pastor, his mother, one thing that she had always said was soup, soap, and salvation. You cannot just preach the gospel to people without meeting the needs. And when you meet the needs, that gives you a right. It gives you a doorway into preaching the gospel. And so Cindy has earned that right with looking after the children, with proving herself faithful, with the program there. And so with the mothers, she wanted to give them a food parcel. So that was just us. We went to the supermarket and bought these 3 trolleys worth of food. Yeah.
The money that was raised in this church paid for that.
So it was about 3 trolleys worth of food, wasn't it, that we picked up and made up like 13 or 14 bags of food, just the essentials: potatoes, carrots, onions, pasta, flour, chicken. Yeah, chicken. That weird chicken. Yeah. And that was us just getting them ready for them. I wasn't at the meeting in the afternoon, but Heather was. And this is at the end with the ladies. They all came, didn't they? And they had a great time. And I know Cindy was so touched with that. Heather spoke to them about that, and the ladies absolutely loved it. And then they played games. They played picture bingo with them.
They all responded to the gospel. Yeah, just when we preached the really simple gospel message, I think I preached on the blind man being healed, and they never heard anything like it in their lives before. And they all, at the end, we prayed for those who wanted to receive Christ, and all 14 of them put their hands up to say that they wanted Jesus. So, so as a church, we all contributed to that because of I think we sent £150 from this church, and that went to buy all the food parcels. And, so we may not all have been able to go, but we've all contributed. So the pictures that you're seeing up here, we've made a difference. And while I'm here, if I can I just read this email? Because we did make a difference, and we all make a difference. And this was an email that Cindy sent me, and this was after our team went, which you sent us there. The atmosphere shifted after you guys left. This is from Cindy. And the prayer time we had in the centre together seemed to change the hearts of my team, and I see a significant difference since then. Thank you for coming and speaking into our lives. Your encouragement, wisdom and love was amazing. God used you more than you can imagine.
Does it end there? No, it doesn't, because in July, Tony, if you want to come out, there's a team going out for the playground. And then in October, Heather's taking another team of young people. Do you want that?
There.
Yeah.
That doesn't look like a playground, does it? Oops.
I only do forwards.
I'm too far back, aren't I? Right. That's 2 of the children that Heather and Evelyn and Ruth will probably have seen. They're on the land that the playground's going to be built on. The community centre is to the the left-hand side of the picture. I'm looking at it from my perspective. There's a large concrete square in the corner there with a pylon on it. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about that, so that shapes what we're going to do. In the summer, Patrick, Andrew McQuiston and I we are previous travellers to the other side of Europe. That's in the Ukraine. The 3 of us there are going to Medgidia, and we're going to be building a playground. The space that was originally available is small. Where those 2 children were and where that pylon was. The pylon is the bottom left-hand corner. But Pastor Vazzy has been to see the mayor of the town, and the space is much bigger. Into that space, we're going to be putting 2 swings, 2 sets of swings, 3 swings on each set. We're also going to be putting a seesaw. One of the guys at formerly at Bradford Elim, a metal fabricator, has already built the pivot for that. We have a long metal bar, 3 metres long, that we can extend to 4. He's also provided some seats. We're going to get some different ones though, and some handles. And someone else has offered me a 4-metre beam, 4-metre wooden beam. We're going to put in a wobbly wooden bridge. You know the sort where you stick a load of pieces of wood together with a couple of pieces of chain, and you have a chain safety bar or rail, which really isn't very firm, so everything wobbles about as you go on it. We're going to do one of those. We're going to build some monkey bars as well, so that the children can swing on them. That's why they're called monkey bars. Going to put in a fireman's pole. It's going to come from Ireland, it's £56. Not a great deal. I think that's really, really good value for money. And a 3-metre slide. The guy who's going to give us the 4 metres of wooden beam is going to provide us with a slide. That one we've got to pay for, though. And that's all to be taken out in the bus. And last but not least, we'll put in a swinging beam. Maybe you don't know what one of those is, but I'll show you a picture in a moment. Those are swings that we've already built. That was in 2010. The sets of swings that we'll put up will be just like those. The colour might be different, but the setup will be just the same. The monkey bars will be something like that. That's a huge climbing frame that we put together. Patrick was there when we built it. Patrick painted it, didn't you? It was yellow. It's yellow. And the swinging beam on the right-hand side of the picture there, 2 parallel rails and a beam suspended by chain. We're going to try and put a 3 or 4 metre beam in. Okay. Oops. That's the swinging beam, monkey bars and a slide, all on the same picture. As I've said, 3 of us will definitely be going, Patrick, Andrew and myself. Another chap has made an inquiry. Sounds like he really wants to go, and he'll be a real asset. He's a welder. We'll be travelling out in my bus. It's a long way, but it also helps us take a load of the gear with us. We'll be taking the fireman's pole, we'll be taking the slide, we'll be taking the seesaw, and that all just needs putting together. Patrick's already collected more than £250 towards the cost of this, and that's with Cindy now. Hopefully, when we get there, the metal tubing will already have been brought in. They already have concrete, or cement, sorry, and locally they've got some quarries that will provide them with some stone, so we can make up the bases very, very easily. A team of Germans will be there the week before we are, and we may even overlap. And there's a whole load of labour from the local church, Bethlehem Basilica, who hopefully will dig out a large part of the ground so that we can put in a soft safety surface as well. There is room for 2 or 3 more people to travel all the way, if any of you wish to go. There is also room for people to fly to Bucharest. We can pick you up on the way, take you to Medgidia, and take you back to Bucharest or Budapest, and you can fly back. Like I said, 2 or 3 people can travel all the way with us, or we can take 4 to 6 people from the airport. We'll be going out or leaving here on the 7th of July. We will get there on the 10th of July, late in the evening, and the playground will be built over the next 5 days. We can extend it 1 day if we need to. We'll be sleeping in the community centre that Evelyn has already shown you a picture of, but because the feeding programme's there for the children coming in every morning, and at lunchtime, we will be taking our meals down at the church about 400 metres away. If you're interested, currently the cost is £355. The more people that go, the lower down that goes.
Not to mention Virgin Giving.
When you're out and about, it might be a good idea to buttonhole anybody and everybody that you can see about this. Not just for us going out in July, not just for Romania. We also send people to Rwanda, and sometimes folk go to India, and we have folk that go to all sorts of different places around the world, buttonhole them and tell them that there is the Virgin Giving site for HCC. Any money that goes in there will be usefully used. There was something else. You said, Evelyn, that you and Heather found that it was depressing or it was dark in Romania. Well, I've been going since 2004. And when I first crossed the border from Hungary into Romania, it seemed very, very much like I'd stepped into a 1960s Cold War spy thriller. It looked very, very Eastern European, or the impression that we got from the films. It isn't like that now. Romania is an absolutely beautiful country filled with beautiful people, and a huge amount of them are born-again believers. There's a lot more that are not. When I first started going over there, we thought we were going over there to try and convert the whole of the country. But believe me, it's filled with born-again believers, and we're going to help and stand side by side with them. They are working very, very hard for the kingdom in their own country, and they just need a little bit of help that we can give them.
So, excuse me. Yeah. I mean, the heaviness that you feel is a spiritual oppression. And, the gospel sets people free. And that's what they need, to set them free. And what does it look like? This is one of Cindy's little boys. No, it isn't. That's... Thank you. And in September, this is what Cindy has been working towards. Because they can't read or write, they have no ability to access school. And so the literacy program is to teach them the basics so that they can then enter school. And that, for the first time in September, and it's not been without its problems, it's not all gone swimmingly, the children started going to school. So they come to the centre in the morning, get showered, put their uniforms on, get breakfast, get taken to school, come back, I'll have something to eat, get out their clothes, they're washed at the centre, and they'll put the other clothes back on to go home. It's not straightforward, and it's not without its issues. I mentioned identity, and these children have no birth certificates. And to go to school, you have to have a birth certificate, because they want to know who you are. You have to have an identity. And these children do not have an identity. It's as if they don't exist, but they exist in the kingdom. They exist in God's heart. And so even this is causing issues. Trying to prove that the children were born, trying to find that what their mothers are saying is the truth, that when they go to the hospital that they get a date, then they're to go to the authorities, fill all these forms in to get a birth certificate. At the end of the day, with the way things are out there, the child might not be genetically the parent's child. They may have got it from another family. So it's opening up a whole new can of worms, But can you imagine? It's easier for us in this nation, but to be without an identity, it really brought it home with me out there. What it means to not have an identity. And I think one of the... And this is a funny story. They couldn't read or write. So Cindy comes down from her apartment one day, and this is what she sees on a shop wall. Are you assisting me? That's it. So she sees these names written on a wall. And as you notice, there are 3 boys that have written their names. And because she's a mother hen, is Cindy, she loves these children. She is so proud, because a year ago they couldn't do that. But she said, so she didn't want to tell them off, but they're doing graffiti. And so she said to them, it's Christy, Jalan, and I can't make out the top of the top one. So she said to these three boys, was it you? No, they said. She said, it was. She said, I'm so proud of you, but the next time, don't leave your names. So everything, don't write them all, but don't leave your names, because it's kind of a clue that they didn't need to do. So everything has its issues, but there are sort of funny moments out there. One of the saddest things, and I won't go into the details, about lack of identity. There was a girl last year who was murdered in not very nice circumstances, and the case still hasn't come to court. And I met her three sisters this year when I was out there, and that's a whole other problematic thing. But when they've done DNA testing on the girl's body, she doesn't even belong to the family that they said she was. That is absolute no identity. That girl was just thrown out with rubbish. No identity. Only God knows who she is. And the gospel is about knowing who you are. It's about having your name written in the Lamb's Book of Life. It's knowing who your identity is. The greatest need that this planet has is for people to know who they are. And the only one that can give you that is Jesus Christ. It's him. And we did pray with the team. And one thing that we found ourselves doing was praying and getting them to honor one another. It said it's from Bethel that honor is the currency of the kingdom. And that was something they hadn't done before. And that was really moving when we got them to honor Cindy, to honor one another. We had the lady pastors honoring one of the lead lady pastors. And it is right to honor. It's not just right in Medgidia, it's right here. It is right for us, church, to honor our pastors, to honor Heather and Graham, because it's the way the kingdom works. It's right to honor one another. God honors us with his son. And this is just the final one, and it's self-explanatory. A little can go a long way out there, and those are just the things that we took out that you gave. And, the gospel has you doing really dumb stuff at times, doesn't it? But you do it. But I know, they're only little things, but Cindy was so thankful. And she said when she went out there that she would never cease to be thankful for everything that was given, no matter how small. Sometimes when you go to places and you take gifts and you feel a bit underwhelmed by them, you think, gosh. But when you take things out there, I tell you, they're received with a thankful and grateful heart. So, thank you, HCC, for what you've given, because it does make a difference. And, we're linked with that place. And so, travel opportunities, July, or there's a team of Heather and young people going out in October. There'll be the ladies' conference next year, blah, blah, blah. There's a wedding in August. Yeah. But